Hey, welcome to the Android XR talk of my choosing today. Thank you also for being chosen by the committee to have me talking in front of you again today. Android XR, XR. Great. But before we are going into the topic, I obviously have to talk about myself. And when I'm talking about myself, I cannot stop talking about Yubico, the company who creates your security YubiKeys. So we are making it easier for you to get rid of passwords. And we are also always exploring what is new on the horizon. So we saw that Android XR comes up and we were thinking like, okay, we need to invest some time into just understanding what is new there, how does this work, and are there any implications for your security or how to use your keys there. So with this up front, let's talk about Android XR, the extended reality system of Android. It got actually the first signs in December 2024, where there was this beautiful blog post talking about like, hey, Android XR will be a thing, come buy into the hype right now. So we did this, and what the images were showing there were floating pictures in space. I mean, great announcement, I really liked it. Read it through if you have some spare time. It did not say a lot of technical things yet, but therefore we had like the coming next month and half years to just add more details. So apparently at the Samsung Unpacked in January, there was the announcement that they will have devices supporting Android XR. So it will be like a big fat headset that you can put on your head. You have seen probably those before. And then we also saw them for the first time from this YouTuber where they were running around in their room and doing random Android XR things inside there. And like, I'm really curious about this device and I want to have one myself at some point. But except for the actual physical hardware, there were some other announcements which I'll just skip over. I want to code. I'm here to write code. I like to write code. So let us find out how we would write the code. Like all the good things starting, we read the documentation first, right? If you want to read the documentation for Android XR, it's actually posted on the developer android.com page. And you have a nice and easy overview into seeing how you can take your Android app and make it XR ready. So like how would you use your existing Android app and make it so that you have like different windows appearing, floating in mid-space. Well, I'm not going to read this in front of you. I'm going to go a bit more practical. So since we don't have the device yet, how does the emulator work, which is the closest thing we have to actually get it running? Well, if you have the outdated version I have here, or an even earlier, newer Canary version, you should be able to just install the emulator and run it. So there is some more documentation on how to actually use it, but again, I want to just show you in a demo. If you want to find out those slides, please feel free to look at my bit.ly link down there. They're linked there, and also all my contacts are there. But let's go into the emulator. So this is the emulator. I'm just going to go to the home menu, and it at first glance looks like normal Android, right? So if I hope you can see it, I'm just going to make it a bit bigger and enable my keyboard so that you're seeing what I'm typing when I'm typing. So yeah, it has a Chrome box. So let's tap on the Chrome and see what happens. Well, this looks like a default, sure, whatever, I don't know, Chrome first-time usage experience. It is an Android app running directly in 3D space. How can I tell that it's 3D space? Because if I'm moving my cursor right now into the corner, you see that like a new corner appears, right? I can click it, I can hold it, and then scale it up and down. So this would be like where it's very important that you don't lock your orientation or anything and make it dynamic based on whatever the user wants to do with your app in virtual reality, or extended reality, or augmented reality, or whatever reality you want to choose. So yeah, I can move it up and down, I can move it left and right, at least from the size, but I can also move the whole window, right? So if I just tap and click and hold and move it around, you see, okay, this window actually moves in three-dimensional space. And so can I. I, as a user, can move in space, obviously, but I can also tell the emulator to move into a three-dimensional space. On my MacBook, I have to press the Option button. On your Windows or Linux machine, it will be the Alt key. And then I just move the cursor around, and then it emulates me rotating my face. If there is gamers underneath the audience, you will also be familiar with how to actually move in 3D space. So if I want to move my head forward, I press the W key. If I want to move my head back, I move the S key. If I want to be doing that's probably left, I press A. If I want to go right, I press D. So it's WASD, the normal first-person shooter way of shooting Windows, or in this case, navigating inside the XR emulator. I think you can also do random things like pressing E for actually moving your head up, and with Q, you can move your head down. So like you can emulate all of the movements you would do in three-dimensional space already in here. You can also, if you are not the keyboard pressing type, move all of those things when you're pressing like next to the emulator. You have a little toolbar where you can select the same things. Now I selected I want to move my head on the same plane, so I just move without moving in Z direction. I just move in X and Y direction my head. Same goes for this one. This is a little icon that is in a magnifying glass. Now I would move my head in front, or like into or out of the current visible plane. So I would be moving closer or further away from the window I'm seeing. And lastly, on those button sides, for at least the navigation inside the emulator, we have the circular button that allows me to actually rotate myself and my head. So I would just go like this. So then the question is, like, if I'm doing something weird like this, I'm just lost in space, how do I get back to where I want to be? What is the default origin? Well, luckily we have the next button where I can just say, hey, get me back to home. Because I think for us in reality, it's easier to get back home, but if we are in virtual emulator space, it's never easy to understand where is up, where is down, where is left. So it's good to have an origin to just press back, everything's where it should be. Well, I can also do other things with multiple apps, right? So like right now, we have seen how we can move around a Chrome window, but we can open other apps. So I'm just opening the settings for now by clicking also on the keyboard icon again, which I always keep forgetting. If you are on the navigation mode on the toolbar, you have to click back into the keyboard mode in order to actually interact with the emulator. So now you saw that I was able to actually open the settings, and again, I can move this one around. I can also open a third app by just going back to the home menu and scrolling to the side and see what pre-installed apps we have. So in this case, I'm just going to open the Play Store. And now you see one other struggle is like, now I have so many windows around, right? I can, again, move back and forth, but I want the machine to orient the windows for me. Well, luckily, this is also what Android XR offers. I just click back on Home, and I have, hopefully for you visible, this tiny icon, but in XR space, it would be very big for you, that actually like orients all of those windows circularly around me. And this is how you would be using the emulator later on to test also your apps in it. So this is the basics for the emulators. Let us go back to the slides to see how we can now move our applications into this space. And like I said, this is Android, right? So all of your beautiful apps already run in there. Like for me, this is a crucial thing because I can install my terminal emulator, run SSH and other things on it, how I would usually do it on my machine. But now I have the benefit that I can have it like in infinite space surrounding me, right? Like I can have my terminal over here, I can read my code over there, and potentially have like a VNC or SSH session open to actually do my coding on another screen, and I just need to turn around or move it back and have everything in one view. So kind of nice. And since it's like supporting all of the Android apps, I can move all of the apps wherever I like to. Interesting is also that if you were here for the cardboard area or the daydream area, The time are coming back, I want to say, sadly not on all the apps. If I try the YouTube app to find some specific spatial views or spatial videos there, it does not support it. We will see it in the gotcha sessions lesson later, where the app just does not display it as I would see it in three-dimensional space, but it shows me the left and the right image for my left and my right eye. So there is still some work to be done, but we are getting there slowly. Okay, enough talking about other apps and how the things work. I just want to see code. Well, luckily I have this slide here that says code. Well, okay, thanks. We can also dive a bit deeper, right? I like cats. I have cats at home, so I want to build a simple app to show me all the cats that are currently trending on Blue Sky. I'm an Android engineer, as I was telling. I'm not a UI designer or UX designer, so I'm sorry for this one, but at least it gets the job hopefully done. I want to list just also all the cat pictures and everybody who's talking about cats on Blue Sky. So I'm just creating a composable that looks something like this and gets me the main initiatives through. And then I'm just doing normal Android things, right? I'm using a view model, I'm using flows, everything I would do in a normal Android app. So this is my data model, right? I'm assuming from Blue Sky I'm getting this down. So I have a search response, and every search response contains a list of posts. The posts are defined somewhere, and then I have like a way to define, hey, what are the actual images I want to show? So I also need a reference as a serializable here. Kotlin X serialization is also here to recommend. This makes it so much easier. So now that I have the data models, I can also declare the retrofit service. It's just following this URL. I have the query string, I have a language set to English, and I only want like a specific amount of posts at a time. Right now it's defaulting it to 3. It can be whatever you want. And it returns me the search response, so the backend communication should already be done in this case. Okay, now we have the backend communication. We need to create the service in order to actually execute it, and we can build beautiful UIs. I'm not showing you the UI code because I want you to ask me later about how they look in code, but visually they look like this. It is a card with an icon, with a text, with another text, and with an image. I think you can already decipher it yourself how you would write it in code or not. Cool. So this is the Android app. That's the normal one, no magic in here. The magic starts when we're talking about XR, right? How do I now take this beautiful cat picture app and make it something in three-dimensional space? Well, we want this in the result in the end, right? We want to orient all of the cats surrounding us in mid-space because we want to look at cats wherever we are, wherever we turn. Luckily, you see that I repeat the same graphics, right? Like the posts are actually the same. Like what you're seeing there is just composable code oriented in space. But how do we code this? How do we make this appear in 3D space? Is by just let's go through the sample code I wrote. We see on the side just the files I was using for this example, and so far there should be nothing new except for the lower button XR part, and the main activity just finds out like, hey, am I actually in virtual reality XR space, or am I a classic content app? So that's a differentiation you need to add to your main activity, right? And then you branch out from like, hey, I want to now orient it in 3D space, or I just want to have it in a lazy view. Well, let's go down a bit more and see what actually is inside one of those views. So inside the XR package, the eagle-eyed already saw that we have some views in there. And some of them are using the spatial column. Well, it already says what it does. It is a column in space. Think about it, it's just like this, somewhere in space. But it's also the same concept as we have known it from composables. It's a column, right? It also takes a modifier. Well, since it's now in 3D, it takes a subspace modifier, What's the difference between a subspace modifier and a normal modifier? Well, it's the third dimension, right? If we are saying fill max size, it doesn't only fill the square, but it actually fills the cube. Just three-dimensional more. But also, if you keep reading through, like now we have a panel. Well, the panel is essentially just a surface where I can put my views on, and I can say this one should be like scaled inside the spatial column. And then in the panel, I just do my random compose things. In this case, I created a surface, and in the surface, I use the sky post view, which is the one which I used also and defined also in 2D before, like normal Android code up this point. From this point on, sorry, it is a normal Android code, this way around. So the sky post view is everything we have done before. It's just cards and things. Everything else before, the spatial panel, the spatial column, everything with space, or spatial, obviously is three-dimensional. And then, let's go over the math part. One of my favorites, the one that clears the room the easiest, is like, how do we now calculate actually the cylinder surrounding us? Well, we have a list of elements, and every element has an index. We need to define per index where is it in three-dimensional space. And that's what this beautiful function does here right now. First, it calculates, hey, how many items do I want to have in one circle, right? So, and then based on posts per round, I define, is this, on which position in this circle am I right now? And then there's a way when I know the x and y coordinates inside of this cylinder, how high am I? And the height is determined by how often does the amount of posts fit into my current index. I'm letting it sink in a bit more, but the math is triangular, right? So it's just what we know, sine, cosine, and a bit of a modulo at the end. I want to highlight also the normalized angle cosinus, which is, this one is not the normal angle cosinus or not the normal cosine function, but it's the one that goes between 0 and 1. That's an optimization just for reasons of making it faster, that the results are way easier for me to, not easier, but faster for me to calculate when it needs to be happening. It's the recommended way right now when you're using XR, and it's just in the end you need to multiply it by the radius, and it's going to be fine. And instead of the angle, it actually takes a value between 0 and 1 that represents 1 is 360 degrees versus 0 is 0 degrees. That's the difference between the normal cosine and normal sine. And then once I have the coordinates, right, I can put this as an offset onto the spatial panel and then do some math and rotating it around so that it's always facing the user. This is how you do 3D in Android XR. You just need to find the right coordinates to put the things on, set it onto the spatial panel, and read up a bit on what the spatial panels do and how you are using them. And I have to admit that that is the simpleness, right? So this is supposed to eliminate that it's quite simple to actually take your Android code and make it Android XR compatible. You just need to put it into a spatial. And this is where we are also slowly going into the end, and I'm opening up for more questions after I showed you the beautiful things I found while exploring the new space, so to say. At some point, the camera was just going crazy, right? If you're doing crazy things happen, and this is reflected in the first image that I was upside down, left-handed, and luckily I remembered that there's the Get Me Home button that I could lose my sanity not as much as the app wanted me at this time. Also, I took the middle screenshot just at the right time because I really enjoyed how the snake was looking at me while it's just my math did not math at this time. So they were just random panels appearing in mid-space somewhere. And as I was teasing before, the last one is showing us the YouTube spatial experience at the time, where if you want to see a virtual reality video, I think there is still a bit more work to be done in order to move over from the old cardboard daydream view into the new Android XR space. But yeah, so summarizing my talk so far, it's like Android Extended Reality, Android XR, is a thing that might come anytime soon now, or maybe next year, where you are able to take a headset on and move your apps over quite easily. The other idea currently floating in mid-space in Google is that there will be also glasses, right? We remember Google Glasses, but those glasses will be slightly different, than like they have displays inside and make it easy for you to show more information. Android XR works. It's currently on the emulator only, but soon, again, we will get hardware. You can already try your apps on it. For just like two-dimensional apps in XR, you have to do nothing. You just like install them, port them. You don't even need to port them. You just compile them and they run. If you want to make space for like you need more space, or you want to have a second panel open, or want to orient it a bit differently, well, it's also similarly easy as you're doing it on Android right now. Take a look at Jetpack XR, which is like the Jetpack library that is specifically for XR. This is where our spatial content comes from, the spatial panels. We use surfaces, composables, spatial panels, etc. It's like similar to what we know. And now we are essentially just waiting for the hardware to arrive. It's any minute now, or maybe next year. We will see. Thank you so much for coming for my quick talk today. I'm opening up for any questions you have. Please go to the microphones in the middle of the room or in the middle of the rows.